All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Johnny Cruz, and you're watching Windows of Latin America. Well, today, conversing with the stars, we have a special guest, the Senator Benjamin Bryan.
How are you?
Benjamin,
Good.
pleasure to meet you and
Pleasure
have
to
you
see-
here at the show.
Happy to be here.
We're going to be talking about Benjamin. Well, Benjamin, who is Benjamin?
Right.
Brian.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Well, my name is Brian Benjamin. I
Okay.
was born in Harlem Hospital in 1976. My mother came here in '74 on a student visa. She wanted to study biology. She met my dad in the courts when she was working part-time as a temp,
Okay.
and got pregnant with me. And he didn't want to have kids, so
So where you come from?
I was born in Harlem Hospital.
Okay.
19 December 1976, I was born in Harlem Hospital. And he, didn't want to have kids, but she
It
decided
happened,
that, yeah, it happened. And so she was a single mom for a few years. And I was going to a Catholic school in Brooklyn, and my bus driver used to take me home. I was his last stop, and one day I invited him up for dinner. And now he's my stepfather, and we have a little,
Oh,
I have a
wow,
younger
that's
sister.
good.
Yeah,
That's
so I
amazing.
introduced my parents, but the good thing is, they both worked in union households, right? I mean, my mom worked for Local 372 as a secretary. My dad, after being a bus driver, became a janitor at 32 BJ. So I just grew up in a household, in a union household,
Working
understanding
people.
working people,
Very important.
being decent, being honest, being a man of your word. All those things I learned. And my mom was very involved in the local politics, right? She used to go to all the conventions, and I would go with her. And I remember seeing Jesse Jackson in
Okay.
1984 and '88 at the Democratic Convention. And we used to watch Meet the Press together every Sunday. And so I kind of grew up and around politics and community service. And so it just was in my blood, and eventually
So I see
we got
what
here.
inspired you to become a politician, huh?
Yes. And I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 12th grade, and I was honored enough to get into Brown University. I went there and I majored in public policy, and really kind of decided this is what I want to do with my life. And was very interested in how to have the private sector work with the public sector to make the world a better place, these public-private partnerships.
Yes.
And I ended up going to Harvard for Business School as a result
Interesting.
of that. And
Cool.
afterwards, really kind of started to explore different ways to make the world a better place with the public and the private sector working together, which eventually landed me here. When
Okay.
President Obama, then Senator Obama, ran for president in 2007, I started a group called Harlem for Obama.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was the real beginning of me getting involved in local politics, because that exposed me to Charlie Rangel, exposed me to Bill Lynch, who I ended up working with for a year, exposed me to all of the sort of legends
Veterans.
of all the legends, and I learned a lot, and I pay attention, and
I could imagine.
and 11 years later, actually 10 years later, I was able to be the winner of a special election to become the New York State Senator for the 30th
So
District.
you've been in office for 11 years?
I've been in office for a year.
Uh-huh.
So in 2007, I helped President Obama. 10 years, between that time, I joined the community board, where I ended up becoming the chair of the community board. So in that 10-year period of kind of like preparing and being
Right.
active, being in the community, in 2017, so 10 years later from then, I was able to win. So I actually won last year. I've been serving for a year
Oh, okay.
as the senator for the 30th district.
Beautiful. So we're going to talk about a couple of issues here.
Sure.
What's your take on ban incarceration?
Mass incarceration. So my belief has always been that we want to have a fair and just criminal justice system, right? We believe that everyone's innocent until they're proven guilty,
Definitely.
just sort of the basic tenets of how you should operate as a society. Unfortunately, the criminal justice system as implemented in New York State is not fair, and it's particularly unfair to folks of color. Right now, we have 70 to 75% of those sitting in Rikers Island right now, 80 to 90% of them who are young men of black and brown men who have yet to be convicted of a crime. So in some cases, you have some of these young people in jail for like over a year, 2 years. We all heard about the Cleve Browder case of the young man
course.
who was in Rikers for 2 to 3 years, accused of stealing a book bag. So why is that the case? Well, part of the issues we have is we have, number one, a money bail system that criminalizes poverty. What do I mean by that? Bail was supposed to be a way to make sure that people don't flee and come to court.
That's correct.
Right now, it's just a way to basically keep people in jail, and if you can't afford it. So, for example, Harvey Weinstein, right? A lot of things he did. About 85 women and counting have accused him of a range of things. He could afford $1 million bail.
Exactly.
Khalif Browder couldn't afford $3,000 bail. So now he's sitting in Rikers. Harvey Weinstein's out. That's not really a fair system, right? Neither of them were some threats to leave or abandon ship, but it is part of this callousness of our system, and because those who are incarcerated don't have the political power and all the fancy friends, they're sitting in jail. And I believe as the Harlem State Senator representing Harlem, East Harlem, West Harlem.
You want to change it.
This is right. I mean, if I don't focus on this, who will?
That's
and
true.
so I'm all over, I'm talking about that every day. So there's the bail reform. We need to stop having no money, no cash bail. It's just what it is. We don't want any of that stuff going on. And then we also need our trials to happen faster. Right now we have situations where, our judges should look at more cases than they do. They spend half the day looking at cases, and then they spend the other half doing briefs. No, spend the whole day doing cases, and then on your off time do the briefs, right? And that will help move the process along. Due process is so important. And then lastly, discovery law reform. We need the defense attorneys to have the evidence at the same time that the prosecutors do. If you have a good case, you have a good case. Why play with the evidence and then try to get someone to do a plea? Now, in some cases, people take a plea because they can't afford to stay in Rikers, right?
True.
They got to get home, they got a family, they got kids. By the way, all of whom are in our district, but yet when they end up going to prison, they get counted in the census upstate, get part of the resource upstate, but all of the costs that are associated with their life are in our district. We're getting doubly hit.
So that has to change.
That whole system is really not a good one, and it's important for people who are just common citizens to understand this is not what's happening. People want you to believe that everyone's in jail is a threat. It's not true.
No,
it's probably
of course
20 to
not.
25%
Yeah,
of the
they
people in
believe
jail
so,
who
yeah.
are the real threat. There's a
course.
whole another 70 to 75% of people in jail who are there because they're just caught in this web of mess. And so we got to get them out, and that's what I'm focusing on.
That's very important focus. What about helping growing community businesses?
Listen, there's a East Harlem organization called Operation Equivalency. I help to provide them with a $100,000 grant from the state Senate so that they can focus on programs to help people get their GEDs, help them get skills, construction skills. We need people working, and we need people that have skills that they can then take and start their own businesses. I mean, how beautiful would it be if we can look up and see a lot of our young men and women who were formerly incarcerated or who could have been incarcerated having businesses, selling products, right? And then let's help them. And gentrification is happening anyway. Why not make sure that the Whole Foods and all these other places buy their products and help them grow, and so that people in the community get hired by people in the community, because not everyone's going to go to Brown and Harvard, right? Not everyone's going to and work for some major corporation or what have you.
There's a lot of opportunities
have to.
out here,
and that's what the role of government is. That's my job. That's my colleague's job, to create those opportunities for those who can't create it for themselves. I don't need the government to do much for me. As I went to all the best schools in the world, I have all the education in the world. I can do what I want. But there are a lot of people who are good, hardworking people, not lazy people, who have a system that doesn't help them. And we've got to figure out a way to make the system help them better.
Very important. Education and affordable housing, that's another issue.
You just going through everything. One of the things I did before becoming a senator, I was building affordable housing, and not, fake affordable housing, real affordable housing. Yeah, affordable housing where people who, 20% of our residents were formerly homeless, getting vouchers, project-based Section 8 vouchers, the SIPS vouchers, LIST vouchers, you name it. And we just believed, when I was at Genesis before being a senator, that a healthy community has to start with people having a good place to live.
Definitely.
And so we focused on that. and we only did affordable housing. I mean, we could have done market rate housing, but we thought it was our job to really try to create as much affordable housing as possible and preserve as much affordable housing as possible. You see what's going on with NYCHA and all the issues. NYCHA needs a lot of resources to renovate some of these apartments. I mean, I just, in Brooklyn the other day, a week of no running water. I mean, this is just terrible, all that's going on. And again, if this wasn't happening in the black and brown communities, I don't believe that it would just kind of be allowed to happen. And maybe that's just me, but I do believe when we, as those who are mostly affected, stand up and rise up together, I think we can get a lot of things done.
Oh, definitely. It's very important for
On the education front, I apologize.
Sure, go ahead. No.
On the education front, I strongly believe, a lot of people want to spend time saying public schools, charter schools, let's fight. My argument is, we know we have an issue with our public schools. Right. Let's get the resources into the right hands. There's some principals need to go. There's some superintendents need to go.
Sure.
We need to make those cases. And let's create a system where every kid, no matter what school their parents choose to send them to, can have a great education. I don't want to talk about, well, someone's doing this and who's doing that. I want to talk about how are we making sure that everyone gets a great education. And so we're focusing on that. District 5, which is the Central Harlem.
That's your district.
That's the core of my district. I also have District 4 and District 6 and District 3. Oh, okay. But a lot of my district is District 5. I've sat down with the superintendent and said, listen, we don't want excuses, right? And she's on board. Let's get the resources. Why can't we get private businesses to raise money and help do the things that the DOE can't do? Why we sit right in the central, and I'm talking about Central Harlem right now, but East Harlem is the same way. Yes. You have all these cultural organizations, all this amazing talent right outside your doors. Who's responsible for bringing them inside, to help train and teach our kids? We got hospitals. Why aren't we using the hospitals to show kids how to become nurses? And I mean, that's where the future is. The money that's going towards healthcare, doctors are, that's not where the action is going to be. It's with the nurses and the home health nurses to try to keep those costs down. We should be building these pathways of opportunities for our kids. And if we don't do it when we could do it without all this extra money from the government, then shame on us.
That's great. Well, you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. We're trying.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. It's always
happy to be here.
Finally, you got here.
No, thank you. And listen, you talk about El Barrio, you talk about Central Harlem, West Harlem. Harlem is just a landmark, right? I mean, when you go anywhere around the world, everyone knows Harlem. It's the only neighborhood around the world that everyone knows, and their eyes light up, right?
Oh, sure.
So we have got to protect our culture. We got to make sure those who have been born here and who have made this place what it is, they can stay here and grow and prosper and thrive. And that's my job, and that's our job together, and we'll keep doing it.
I'm counting on you. That's what Johnny Cruz is trying to do. Stay in Harlem and be here for a long time.
Absolutely. And your kids and your kids' kids. And we got to make sure that they can grow and do what they want to do and not be at risk or concerned about getting pushed out of their homes for someone else, right? We all can live here and do well here.
We're all going to work on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, this is Johnny Cruz, and we want to thank Senator Brian Benjamin for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right.
Well, stay tuned for more of Windows of Latin America.
Sandunguera, se te va por encima la cintura.